Oh, God. Hey, everybody. It's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review Kraven the Hunter. I reviewed the first 8 minutes of this movie, and I got like a ton of views. It was pretty hilarious. Like, that's the funny part about doing these videos, is I never know which ones are gonna get like 1 million views. Obviously not 1 million yet, but like, just a lot in comparison to other videos. And what can I say, guys? I was right. I was not only 100% right. I was so right that it's kind of sad. Like, this movie is a sad movie. It was delayed a whole year or whatever, which sometimes movies do need to be delayed because, I think that when you're making a movie, it's really bad to put a deadline on yourself. Like, it's really bad to say, like, okay, it's gotta be done, it's gotta be released by this time. Like, we've gotten to the point nowadays with movies where that's how it is with, like, especially superhero movies. Like, we've got to have a certain amount of superhero movies per year, or else the world is going to explode. Honestly, I wish that we could just have 1 year with no superhero movies whatsoever, or any, like, comic book movies. I'm sick and tired of them. I'm sick and tired of, like, these stupid, dumb movies like Kraven the Hunter, these stupid, dumb movies that, they always use the excuse, too. People will say, like, well, what did you expect? It's a comic book movie. And it's like, I just watched The Penguin Season 1. That was like a masterpiece. It was a literal masterpiece. It was a brilliant, incredible, perfect show. And that was like, and so, because what I'm saying is, like, another excuse that I've heard about these movies is, well, nobody ever wanted to see a movie about one of these Spider-Man villains without Spider-Man. And, well, how do you explain the Penguin being so good then? I mean, I know that the Penguin is a Batman villain, but how do you explain? It just shows it doesn't have anything to do with Spider-Man not being in this movie. It has to do with this movie being a giant piece of shit. So overall, let's get into the movie. Overall, I would say this movie was terrible. It was really, really bad. I've got some notes here that I wrote. Somebody wrote a comment on one of my other videos, and they said that they said something really weird. Like, this isn't a podcast, it's a stream of consciousness. And it's like, well, that's what videos are on YouTube. That's all they are, is a stream of consciousness. Like, there's no such thing as a review, like a structure of a review, or the video that they commented on was me talking about making my movie. There's no set structure, it doesn't matter. And it's like, yeah, a stream of consciousness, that's what videos are. So, anyways, I guess you could call this video a review / a stream of consciousness, as if that's some kind of an insult, which it's not, honestly. But right off the bat, there's a lot of dumbed down dialogue in this movie. This movie feels like one of those parody movies in GTA. Like, I'm going to read you guys some of the terrible lines. So they're talking about the brother, Kraven's brother. He can play anything on the piano. He's like chameleon. And then the main bad guy of the movie is the Rhino, who's like the worst piece of shit villain I've ever seen in a Sony movie ever. He is the absolute worst. He says, you gotta be like Rhino and charge through problems or something. And then Kraven the Hunter, of course, he says, hunting people down is kind of my thing. Like, like they're not even trying. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand this fucking piece of shit movie. And it's so bad that I almost feel sorry for it. Like, it got delayed, as I was trying to say earlier. It got delayed. They released the first 8 minutes of the movie as like a desperate attempt to get people to see it. The main actor and the director had to publicly beg people to go see the movie. And you go see the movie, and this is what you get, like, ugh. This movie, I could barely get through it. It was so bad. It was boring, it was lame, it was dull. It was like a movie you rent at the video store in the early 2000s. You know what you would do when you go to the video store? You get 3 movies. One of them would be the new release movie. Could be any movie. One of them would be the movie that you've already seen, that you really like and want to watch again. And then the other one would be like a throwaway movie like this. This would be like the movie where, like, you put it in and you're like, yeah, I think I'll take this out now. You know, like, this movie was just a giant waste of time. It was a giant waste of money. It was a giant waste of energy. There's no art in this movie. This movie isn't art. It's a piece of shit. There's no art in any single scene in this entire movie. This movie is a disgrace to comics. This movie is a disgrace to movies. This isn't Kraven the Hunter. It's Kraven the NPC action guy. I mean, this character, he's like the fucking main character in an iPhone video game. You know, like the game that you get off of the App Store, you know, like where you see the trailers on all the apps that you use where, you know, oh, it's an ad break, and they show like this guy, this big muscle guy running around, and he has no personality or anything to him. That's this character. That's Kraven the Hunter. He's the worst character I've ever seen in a Sony movie, a Sony Spider-Verse movie. Terrible character. He has no flaws. He has no depth. There's nothing about him, and just the script for this movie is so bad that it makes you wonder why they even released this movie. Because if I made this movie, I would be too embarrassed to even release it. So, and also, the movie is really weirdly structured, too. At the beginning of the movie, they spend like 30 to 40 minutes with the backstory of Kraven and his brother when they're kids. It's such a weird plot structure choice, because usually you'd flash back and forth or whatever, and it would be just kind of, and you know, it's all just cliche and stupid anyway, but it's really weird how they show you 8 minutes of Kraven, and then for 30 more minutes, you're sitting around waiting for Kraven to show up again. You know, waiting for Aaron Taylor Johnson's Kraven to show up again, because you have to watch this stupid story about these brothers, and then Kraven, he almost dies because he's stupid, and then he gets saved by lion's blood drop on him. That was weird. Russell Crowe plays Kraven's father. Russell Crowe acted like he just came to set for the free food. He didn't really act like he cared about anything that was going on. I think, too, I gotta say, remember the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game? I did not really like that game when it came out. You know why? Because I beat that game in like 4 hours. It was a very short game. It felt very cheap. There were a lot of glitches in it. In fact, when I got to the Green Goblin boss fight, which takes place like on a rooftop, I literally couldn't complete it, and so I had to like purposefully jump off the building so that I could play it again. But I gotta say, like, the Kraven in that video game was really, really good. especially in comparison to this. So I really feel like I should say sorry to the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game, because that was so much better than this shit that they served us. And then there's this other weird like thing that it's like, it's not really a plot point, but it is. It's like this thing that they just oh shit, ow. I was standing up and then I like twisted my knee. Ow, that hurt. That's random. There's just random shit that always happens in my videos like that. Like I'm just like randomly I'll like hit my hand against something. I'll be like, ow, oh shit. But there's this weird plot point where Kraven is like Santa Claus and he has a list. He has like a list of people he's hunting down. It's never like it doesn't make this movie doesn't make sense at all. It's so nonsensical and it's so dumb. It's so brain dead. This whole movie, I felt like my brain was shrinking watching this movie. Where did he come up with this list? Why does he have a list? Just God. I mean, basically, this movie kind of reminds me of Hannibal Rising, in a way, to where if you had made it to where all the bad guys were responsible for the mom's death at the beginning of the movie, it would have made so much more sense for him to have a list and for him to be going after all these guys. Because if you guys don't know, in Hannibal Rising, there's these guys and they kill these Nazis and they kill Hannibal's sister, Misha. And the rest of the movie, he dedicates his life to tracking them down and killing them. And he becomes a cannibal at the same time. It's not very good. It's weird. But it's a lot better than this piece of shit, that's for damn sure. But I just feel like this movie lacked logic. It lacked common sense. I don't know who wrote this movie. I'm going to look it up right now. IMDb, Kraven the Hunter. Who wrote this piece of shit? Let's see. It's loading. It's taking a long time. Even the IMDb for this movie doesn't work for shit. Even the IMDb for this movie sucks. It's not even fucking loading, guys. Like, what is up with this? It's only 10:30 at night and the IMDb is like frozen. The cast will load. Okay, let's go writers. Oh, here we go. Oh, there's like 3 people who wrote the script. That figures. Yep. Let's see. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, the people who wrote this movie, looks like they have like credits for other generic movies, as well as surprisingly Iron Man. That's weird. But yeah, I mean, you can tell this movie was written by people who write the same movie over and over again. They get paid by Hollywood to write generic movie number 3, generic movie number 4, and we're getting sick and tired of it. We're getting sick and tired of these stupid movies that you make that have no art or have no story or meaning or depth or characters, and then you expect us to go pay money to see them? Like, no thanks. And let's talk about the villain in this movie, or one of the villains. There's like 4 villains in this movie, if you count the brother who becomes the chameleon at the end. The Rhino is the main villain, and he is terrible. He acts like he's like being goofy on purpose, which was a really weird choice. He's just the typical cliche action movie villain who's kind of like really cocky and overly confident, but then is just kind of a weakling who can't really back up his talk. He wears a this is a weird, the way that he looks, the way that his character was designed was really weird, because throughout the whole movie he looks like Steve Jobs. He looks like, what if Steve Jobs was the Rhino? And another thing is that he has a backpack. He wears a backpack the entire movie. It's a man pack, and the backpack has this serum that he has to inject, or else he will turn into the Rhino. I'm not even making that up. It's that fucking retarded. So yeah, you got the Rhino played by Steve Jobs. And then you got another villain who's like this guy called the Foreigner, which basically just felt like they were ripping off Quicksilver from the X-Men movies, the Fox X-Men movies. Or at least they did that once. They did it once where he slowed down time and then he did a couple of like playful things. But even then, even when they were ripping that off, he couldn't really do very much. You know what I mean? Like, he couldn't do very much like fun stuff. He went to this one guy. There were like 6 bad guys. And he paused them all. He turned one of their guns on themselves. And then he went to the brother and ate a bite of his meat. And that's all he did. That's all he did. And apparently in the comics, the main thing about him is that he's a master of disguise. Well, in the movie, it's a little bit different. In the movie, he's just this guy who looks like a model who wears sunglasses all the time. Which I guess is another part where the Sony executives were like, he's got to look realistic. And it was another... And by the way, Kraven does not dress like Kraven the entire movie. You know, like how on the poster they have this huge picture of him with the fucking iconic comics outfit on. He never wears that the entire movie. That was straight up lying, straight up false advertising. And that's all that these people do at Sony. They false advertise, and they say, "Oh yeah, we're going to give you this great comic book movie, Kraven." And then you get this shit. You get a generic action movie with a plot that's been done like 1,000,000 times before. Nothing interesting about it whatsoever. He's got a love interest, Kraven. He's got this love interest named Calypso. She was trash too. There was nothing interesting about her. There was this really funny shit at the beginning with her and tarot cards where like her grandmother was like doing this tarot card reading, and it was the stupidest tarot card reading I've ever seen. Another thing that they did was they unironically tried to copy the elevator scene from Spider-Man 2. Which, that was a really great scene. You know, Sam Raimi, he knew how to make Spider-Man. He knew how to make a good comic book movie. And they took that scene and they said, let's have Kraven get in the elevator with this random guy. And the guy's like, what do you do for a living? And he's like, I hunt people. And it's like, that's just stupid. It's just absolutely stupid. Because on one hand, the movie tries to be sincere at certain points. Like with the backstory, the relationship with the brother, the father, etc. But then, throughout the rest of the movie, it's almost like the movie knows that it's a piece of shit. And it knows that it's just a giant joke. So it's really confusing as to like, am I supposed to genuinely be invested in this piece of shit movie? There's also, there's this hilarious part where his brother gets kidnapped and Kraven is like crawling all over this car, trying to like get into the car to get his brother. And it reminded me a lot of the Telltale Back to the Future. And there's this part in that game series where Marty has to like crawl all over this car. Which I guess that was inspired by the second one, you know, where he had to get the almanac? Yeah, he had to get the almanac from Biff. But, like, yeah, that was hilarious. So, overall, again, this movie is the worst Sony Spider-Verse movie that I've seen so far. I've only seen Venom 3, Morbius, and this. Morbius was better, and Venom 3 was way better. In terms of food, wow. This is really tough. You know what? This is like, back when you were in school and you would eat the same shit over and over again, like in terms of chicken patties, chicken nuggets, or they would call them chicken tenders, and you'd have like those gross mashed potatoes with the snot gravy on them and other stuff like that. Like, I feel like there was this thing as a kid where, like, I thought that this misconception, I guess you would say. As a kid, I thought that the cafeteria food in high school would be, like, really, really good. And I thought that it would be, like, different food that was so good and it was healthy and it was perfect. Or not healthy, but it was, like, real food, actual food. And I think it's because of a TV show episode I saw. And so I was really, really excited to get to high school to eat, like, the good cafeteria food, quote unquote. And then I finally got to high school, and it was just the same old shit with a couple of more shitty options mixed in. So I wouldn't even eat school lunch. I would bring in a protein bar, and then I would get fast food after school every day. Which, whatever. That's high school. But that's what this movie is like. It's like, oh, I wonder if this movie will be different. Oh, nope. It's the same, but a little bit worse. I really did a disservice to this movie almost by not, like, going completely through this movie and just trashing every single scene, because this movie is just the absolute worst. Like, I don't understand how anyone could think that this movie was releasable. Like, it is just complete nonsense. And it's just so lame and so bland and so cardboard cutout and just nothing. There's nothing to this movie to like. Nothing. I don't have a favorite character. I don't have a favorite actor. I don't have a favorite scene. I think this whole movie is a piece of shit, and I should never watched it in the first place. The first 8 minutes of this movie showed you how bad this movie was going to be. So, please like this video, comment, and tell me that I was right, because I was right. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.